Welcome back to the Big Blue Lifers podcast. I'm Mr. U, just as in the house, and our special guest, writer for BBV and co-host of Big Blue Banter, Nick Falato's in the house. My guy, how you doing, man? So glad to have you here, man.
Mr. U, Jess, let's talk some Giants football. How you guys doing? Hanging out, having a good time?
Let's do it. We're having a good time, man. We're kind of on a high right now because I thought we talked about it on a show last week. I thought this was one of the best drafts I've seen in probably maybe 8 or 9 years. I haven't seen a better draft than this one in quite a while. Maybe I might even go and say 10 years. Best draft I've seen in a while. Everybody doesn't agree with me, but this is where I'm at. This is everything hit. Even Mr. Irrelevant for us. Even that one's going to hit too. I think that was a fantastic cornerback pick. So I'm excited, man. Just as excited. Hopefully the fan base is excited. I can't really tell. They always complain all the time. I'm used to this. New York, oh, my life is over. I'm like, how? So it's the first quarter. How's your life over? So I don't get that stuff, but that's not me. I'm a former native New Yorker, but I never did that kind of stuff. So I'm not used to that. But I'm glad to be here with you, brother. Jess, you feeling all right, man? You doing good?
I'm doing good. Like you said, I'm pretty optimistic about this draft. I think I want to wait a little bit before declaring this the best draft.
Listen. We're just talking about what they did, man. Just what they did. Not they haven't played yet. Just what they what they picked, where they picked it. That's what we're talking about. I ain't predicting the future over here. Okay.
I'm sure you've said this on plenty of shows. I saw you on Talking Giants earlier, the episode that Justin just put out earlier today, I think it was, or yesterday, Nick. But how'd you feel leaving this draft with the haul we got?
I felt very happy about it, and I don't know exactly how to quantify it right now. I was happy with last draft as well. That seemed to be a hit. But for me, it was as simple as don't mess up number 3. One of those two guys are going to be there. Let's not mess that up, and then we could plan the draft around that accordingly if you weren't going to be able to land a haul up to the first pick, which it seemed wildly unrealistic that Tennessee was coming off that. So just pick the guy at 3, and then from there, we'll see how it goes. The Giants did that. They didn't screw it up. They got Abdul Carter, and that I said this on plenty of shows, as you said, Jess. The Giants have, I think, the best pass rush on paper. It just needs to come together now. But they have so many assets of different skill sets who can win in a variety of different ways, and not messing up that Abdul Carter pick was very important to me. Also get a defensive tackle in Darius Alexander, that type of defensive tackle, a one gap penetrator. I wanted a run stopper as well, but Darius Alexander isn't deficient at that, right? He's just more of a explosive guy. I'm going to win with my hands. I'm going to win in the pass rush. And then just bring the element of toughness to your team with a guy like Cam Scadaboo. And I could wax poetic about Cam Scadaboo. I'm really hyped about what kind of culture-changing running back that individual can help facilitate a culture change that maybe the Giants need just to get a little bit more tough. Marcus Bowe, athlete, feather feet, absolutely loved it. And then just bet on traits guys in Fedone and Corey Black at the end. So overall, I'm quite pleased. And then obviously, I'd be remiss if I did not mention Mr. Jackson Dart. And when it comes to Dart, I am glad Dable got his guy. I am neither overly optimistic, nor am I pessimistic about Jackson Dart. I'm cautiously optimistic because the quarterback, the guy that we hope can be the quarterback guru who groomed Josh Allen, now has his guy in Jackson Dart. And there's enough bankable traits that I saw in college that lead me to excitement, albeit a little bit tentative. We'll have to wait for him to prove it at a consistent level. But overall, I got to say, this is one of my favorite drafts as well that I've seen since I've covered the Giants.
No doubt, man.
Sorry, Yusuf.
That's okay. You good. I'm with you.
I kind of wanted to focus there on the Jackson Dart pickup. I'm sure, like all of us, you've watched tons of film. You did your homework on the quarterbacks. Ole Miss, my main concern with Dart, and this is something that maybe, I don't know if I'm a little, still wary because of DJ. I've got that PTSD from him. But DJ's main issue, it felt like, particularly we saw in the first half of this last season, he just wasn't seeing the field. He wasn't going through his progressions. He was scared. He was skittish, but he wouldn't even take off running. Ole Miss's offense, from my understanding, was a lot of it was a simplified offense. It was very QB friendly, not a lot of reads that Dart necessarily needed to go through. It was kind of first read, check down, run, from my understanding. I'm not sure, if, like, is that something that like concerns you with Dart's potential progression? I mean, it seems like that was what we did for DJ in that first year. They're very simple, either run, check down, first read. But once we started expanding, this seems like DJ couldn't do it. Do you think Dart will have those kinds of issues?
There aren't many, or if any, quarterbacks who have translated from Lane Kiffin, high-powered, high-tempo, RPO, spread offense that looks to exploit space because of the hash advantage in college, and their athletes aren't nearly as athletic as professionals, so that space is wider. Those windows in the NFL need to be a lot tighter. I've seen Dart anticipate in college, right? And from an arm talent perspective, he can make all the throws. That's something Daniel Jones can never do, right? So at least there's that foundation that Dart has. Like, similar to Sam Darnold, right? When Sam Darnold sucked with the New York Jets, everyone's like, oh, it's this, it's that, it's that. But like, we all knew we had an elite arm, or at least the potential to have an elite arm. Like, no one ever made that. No one ever made that mistake with Daniel Jones, right? Like, it's a completely different thing. And Dart is more towards Darnold. I don't know if it's as good as Darnold, but it's in that stratosphere, whereas Daniel Jones was not. So getting him with Dable and allowing Dable to teach at Dart's level, that is something that obviously entices me, like I said a little bit earlier, but I just appreciate when we're juxtaposing him against Daniel Jones, the difference in overall arm talent, which means there is a much higher, at least probability theoretically, that he will be closer to his ceiling than Daniel Jones ever was.
Yeah, I'm totally happy with the whole up-tempo offense thing. That's what we're doing. That's fantastic, because we haven't had anything that even resemble that, and I don't know how long now. So even when Jameis came through, I'm like, I know that sometimes his TDs and his interceptions don't match, but he's gonna go for it. He's gonna go for the end zone. He's gonna throw it downfield. And we spent 2 or 3 years not seeing that. So for me, I'm in your boat, man. I'm optimistic, with some caution, because we haven't seen everything. But what I like is that now everything's on the table. All the cards on the table now. Dabo got the guy that he wanted, and we know this guy he wanted because he traded back into the first round for him, so we knew that. John Merritt, I think he was pretty clear about the fact that, they came back because in his mind they didn't get a chance to achieve that, I guess. Daniel Jones is being an exception, I guess, here. So Dabo and Shane got the guy they wanted. No other excuses made here. We got a defense that could be probably one of the best in the league, potentially. There's some spots that I'm concerned about. I want to ask you about that coming up next, but we got what you want to have. Everybody's here. We know that this is a do or die situation. It's been nearly 14 years of playoff ineptitude for the most part, excluding 2022. That's a long time for a team that's supposed to be the mecca of football in the state of New York. So I'm optimistic, but I'm kind of pumped. I'm like, okay, here we go. Let's go ahead and just go all out and just play ball. But there are a lot of spots that some post-Giants fans are concerned about. I have one particularly, and I want to ask you yours. Mine's is tight end. I'm kind of concerned about that. I wanted to get somebody in the draft, but I guess it just didn't work out that way. We locked up on defense, and that's a good problem to have based on where our defense was. But mine's is tight end. What do you think about the tight end class? And if you have a position on the field that you're more concerned about, what would that be?
First, I'd like to address the tight end. Like, for me, I'm not nearly as concerned about the tight end position as maybe you are, just because I think Theo Johnson was a good developmental project. He showed up to the New York Giants, and one of the first – yeah, I like him. One of the first things he told, I think, John Schmelk on a podcast where he was talking with the rookies is like, learning Dable's offense is like drinking water out of a fire hose, right? It's tough. It's a lot at once. But he ended up getting on like week 1 and then basically played the majority of tight end snaps despite making like frustrating mistakes, right? Like really bad mistakes. Mm-hmm. But you could see how much this coaching staff truly believes in Theo Johnson. Now, maybe to your point, though, it might not actually happen, but they at least feel comfortable that he's that one. Manhurts is like the extra offensive like tackle basically. And then Bellinger and then Fedone and Dolchik, I think will all probably compete for that third tight end spot. I think Bellinger probably has the most upside as a blocker, but someone might argue Fedone, but Fedone is a much different type of receiver than Bellinger at that point. So yeah, I'm not as concerned about the tight end position, but if we want to talk about some position groups that I am somewhat concerned about, and it's weird because there's like 11 dudes on this roster who have DT next to their name. But if something were to happen to Dexter Lawrence, I'm still a little concerned there. If something happens in
no doubt.
Yes. And that's
No
just
doubt.
not just because he's like an elite player. It's also because like I just don't know if I trust that depth. Although I appreciate the Giants drafted somebody and brought in 2 veterans who are at least adequate enough. But it's the depth in the secondary I'm concerned about, guys. Like I like Paulson Adebo. He was hurt all last year. Tay Banks, we want to like. He had a promising rookie season, but he took a step back last year. Let's just say both of them are healthy, which, I mean, at the cornerback position, that's like, oh, thankfully, our starting cornerbacks are healthy. But like, what if Tay Banks just doesn't take that step forward, like which could realistically happen? Like your secondary option behind one of those guys not starting is Trey Hawkins III or Corey Black or Cordell Flott. And it's like, I don't know how great that makes me feel, right? Especially if something happens to both of them. And it's just, there's just not like a lot of depth back there. Although I am more confident in the safety position and I am more confident in the nickelback, Drew Phillips, solidifying the other aspects of this Giants defense that have not been great over the last few years.
Is there
I'm good with Theo Johnson.
Yeah,
I'm good with Theo. It's the guys behind Theo that concern me. Is Bellinger going to be what we thought he was going to be?
I don't know.
He flashed in his first year. He flashed. And then all of a sudden, the flash went out.
You're seeming like leaning off of Bellinger. I don't know. Like I haven't, like I know he hasn't exactly developed the way that maybe we thought he would after that first year, but he looked good in that first year, solid enough, decent blocker. But like it seemed like they almost went to Mannertz a bit more last year rather than, and I know Mannertz is he's one of the better blocking tight ends, I think, at least according to PFF ratings in the league. But, you know, Bellinger really kind of fell into almost, what was it, like the H-back role last year, like a glorified fullback. It felt like that's how they used it more than as a tight end. Do you see that changing at all this year?
I think he'll occupy that same role. That's a role we saw towards the end of his rookie season. If you remember, the Giants ran like a play action pass and Daniel Bellinger was the fullback or the H-back, but whatever he was, he released through the A gap and then acted like he was going to like block or something. And then he just darted up the flat. He acted like he was
I remember this.
And it went for like a 19-yard gain or something like that. And then the next season, the Giants went out and got Darren Waller, who was going to be their primary tight end, you know, in every play. So that just put Daniel Bellinger in a spot where it's like, you're the 12 personnel tight end, the blocking tight end, and you're going to occupy this fullback role because maybe we want to get you on the field. But since then, it just seems like the Giants have wanted to go in another direction at tight end other than Bellinger. And I think they wanted a more athletic guy, and that's what they got with Darren Waller too. And it didn't work out, but then they draft Theo. And I think that's what Theo is the Darren Waller role, as well as being a pretty damn good blocker and also kind of running those Lawrence Cager plays. Remember Lawrence Cager when the Giants would always run him up the seam and all that kind of stuff at the sidelines and these creative plays. So, I just don't know if they trust Bellinger to do that. And they just like would prefer to have him be that like Swiss Army knife, also like second, third tight end when you're like running the football in 12 and 13 personnel.
Has there been anything with like, I feel like a lot of the sentiment surrounding this regime has been everybody's like happy with the thought process and like the approach and like the theoretical mindset here, but the results have been less than stellar, let's say. Has there been anything in this offseason like with their approach that like is giving you optimism about this regime potentially? You know, like what do they like? They put themselves in this spot. Like, could they get more time? Do you think like if we see a 7-win season or a 6-win season and it's competitive, but like, all right, Russ started the whole year. We didn't really let Dart do much. Are we giving this regime another year? Do you think? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I've done a 180 on this. I thought this would be a lame duck year for Brian Dable and Joe Shane. And John Mara would just give him one last. I think this is. I mean, again, anything can happen, but I think this is got like a 2-year extension almost, especially with the selection of Jackson Dart. I think John Mara genuinely really likes Joe Shane and Brian Dable. I think he genuinely
I think
believes
so too.
they're good football minds. I think he said the same thing about Joe Judge, and he believed that, I'm sure. But that whole Dave Gettleman, Joe Judge thing, it blew up. And I think when John Mara brought these two guys in from Buffalo, a stable environment that built a Super Bowl contender, like John Mara was like, I want that continuity here, and I trust both these guys to do it. So I think it would have to be an absolute bottom out season for them to not have their jobs retained. And as for process, I think they handled the draft well. I don't think they bit off more than they could chew and get too desperate to trade up for players. I mean, like, they wanted Cam Scadaboo and Marcus Bowe at 104, and they went with Scadaboo, and then they ended up getting Marcus Bowe at 154, like 50 picks later or whatever it was. And that's
beautiful.
Like, they
beautiful
didn't trade
work.
up. Yeah, they just said, let's let the board fall to us. And I think that's a step in the right direction of process. And this is the first time, gentlemen, that we're getting to see Joe Shane and Brian Dable operate this team with a different quarterback plan. Cause like, as much as like just going forward with a quarterback, like that's massive. It's critical. Obviously it's everything with a football team, but I don't know, like in doing that, you start making decisions on other areas of your roster to try to maximize that quarterback, right? They try to maximize everything with Daniel Jones. You go out and you get there, and while you do this, like now that Band-Aid of having that quarterback is ripped off, and now you have a new fresh plan, and you can kind of recalibrate with all the other quality pieces that you have on your roster. Spend here a little bit in free agency, draft these guys. This team and this roster is it's all basically almost all of it is assembled by Joe Shane, if not all at this part, with the extensions of Dexter Lawrence and Darius Slayton and players who were drafted by Dave Gettleman. So they have everything that they want in place. So now just let's see it till the end, I guess, is one way that I can phrase it. And I think that's what John Mara and Steve Tisch are doing.
No, I love it, man. And I've been checking out a lot of your draft analysis, man. You do a fantastic job, by the way. If you guys listening and watching, man, check out what Nick is doing with the draft analysis. It's fantastic. I kind of have a 2-part question here. The first one is, because of your during your pre-draft analysis, what were 1 or 2 guys that you really wanted the Giants to get that we didn't get? And then beside that, I want to ask you kind of about your thoughts on the guys that we did get. I guess you can hit it with bullet points, you know. I do call it. You can just say beast, and we can move on to the next one. But I mean, however you want to do it. But that's my 2-part question. What are 1 or 2 guys that you kind of saw a pop and you want us to get them, but we didn't get them, or whatever the reason was, and your thoughts about who we got individually?
Yeah, so I'll stick at the defensive tackle. It's a player I talked about a lot pre-draft, and it's Alfred Collins. And I believe he ended up going to the Cincinnati Bengals. And the main reason why I wanted him, doesn't really have a lot of pass rush juice, not a lot of pass rushing upside, but I'm mostly scared with the Giants about their inability to fit the run on early downs, which is going to lead to a lot of like 3rd and 2s and 3rd and 1s. Or I want the Giants to be in as many 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 plus situations, so the best part of this team can thrive, which is their pass rush. So in order to do that, we need to be able to stop the run. So I like Darius Alexander. Darius Alexander is a fine run defender, but he's not the run defender of Alfred Collins. And if the Giants got a guy like Alfred Collins and put him next to, or even Cam Jackson, maybe a little bit later in the draft, Yaya Black, the kid from Iowa, a player like that. I'm not chastising the Giants either. Like, I like their plan. It's, you know, you only have so many darts that you can throw. But in my mind, I'm just like, man, if you could have a strong spine defensively on early downs and still play those too high to take away 1st and 10 passes in certain situations, then you can like just trust these run defenders to occupy their gaps, clog those holes, keep blockers off of Micah McFadden and Bobby Okereke and Abdul Carter. You're playing him at the 2nd level. And then, you know, force 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9. And then that might turn into 3rd and 7 or something. And next thing you know, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Darius Alexander, Dex, all these guys are just getting sacks. And it's like, yeah, this is awesome. So I would have loved to have a guy like Alfred Collins, because I think he best embodied what I was looking for at a certain area of the draft in the defensive tackle. But I'm ecstatic about a player like Darius Alexander, and he offers something completely different than Alfred Collins, albeit that is also very important too.
Yeah. I mean, Alfred Collins, he's a big guy.
Yeah, man.
I remember he was also, I think, one of the few defensive tackles we brought in for a 30 visit, if I'm not mistaken. I know that we brought in a lot of running backs. I remember we brought in a lot of running backs.
We did.
But there's in terms of like do you think there is anybody in free agency, maybe at defensive tackle, or going back to, like you said, your main area of concern is still corner? Is there anybody you want us to like go out and bring in to fill in any potential holes? I think you were, if I'm not mistaken, you posted a video, or you guys posted you or your co-host posted a video. I didn't get a chance to watch it yet on YouTube earlier today about Gabe Davis. You know, is there anybody that you really want us to bring in? I guess, you know, maybe segue into some Gabe Davis talk here, but anybody else here that you'd like us to?
No, honestly, from a financial standpoint, the Gabe Davis thing makes sense if it actually is true that he has to sign like a very small contract. I didn't substantiate that, but if that is true, like I've read that, but I don't know like how, you know how it is. Then I would be like, yeah, bring him in, give him a shot. But I'm not like falling over being like, we gotta get him. You know what I mean? I think it would just be a wise decision to see if you can get something from a 26-year-old who has had success in this specific offense and to just give you more depth, because he's going to give you, I think, more reliability than some of those back end pieces behind like the 11 personnel package. And then you have Jalen Hyatt, who's like, you know, falls into a developmental container. And then you're looking at the Amir Smith-Marset, or not. Well, he's more of a kick returner, but the Lil Jordan Humphreys and the Zach Pascals, like have Gabe Davis compete with those guys. I think he might be better. So like, why not bring him in and give him a shot if it's really that as cheap as some of the people have purported. But as for defensive linemen who are available, like you have guys like Roquan Davis and Linval Joseph and players like this. Like I wouldn't be mad. I don't think the Giants would though at this point. Like I wouldn't be mad trying to get anybody cheap enough, especially a veteran, if they buy into what the Giants are selling right now. And they're an upgrade over Jordan Riley and DJ Davidson. So I wouldn't, but I'm not pounding my fist for really anybody right now. Giants got to still trim the fat off some of this roster right now. I think they have like 12 cuts, or they brought in 13 free. They have some guys that are going to, like over the next couple days, guys are going to be getting released.
I mean, I'm a little biased to bringing in Linval Joseph as an ECU guy, but
he was good with us too.
The Giant over the Giants. Yeah.
Speaking of always a Giant, I've seen a little bit of talk about this. I don't know how, it doesn't seem very realistic, but I'm sure you've seen the JPP rumors. He's trying to make a comeback. Hey man, bring him in. Couldn't hurt. Can't have too many pass rushers.
I would love it from a leadership perspective if he could bring that over. I mean, he spent years with the Buccaneers, like learning from like great football players over there. And I mean, he hasn't played in 2 seasons now, 3 seasons, two, something like that. He's like 36, 37, I think.
Yeah,
36 years old.
Not
yep.
a young buck,
but he has abs though.
Yeah, try him out. Let's see, right?
Couldn't hurt. Could not hurt at all. But I'm just like, we're kind of in this almost lull period before OTAs, I believe, start at the end of the month. I think May 26th, 27th, something like that.
Yeah, we got rookie minicamp the 9th through that week. So tomorrow.
Yeah, we got rookie minicamps coming up. We've got OTAs. Prior to these cuts, what do you think is going to be like what position battles this offseason are you going to be most looking at here?
Oh, I love position battle questions. All right, let's peruse this depth chart real quick. Is there any that jump out at me right off the bat? I think the third outside corner, but I feel like there's got to be a better one than that, and not Kayvon Abdul. I think those guys are going to be used together interchangeably. I think Brian Burns will get subbed out sometime, so I'm not necessarily looking at that as a training camp battle as of right now. I wonder though if any of those other guards could start over Greg Van Roten. As much as I like Greg Van Roten, I think Greg Van Roten should be the starter. I wonder if like Jake Kubis, who a lot of people talk about, or even dare I say Evan Neal or Marcus.
I was going to bring that up.
You don't dare say that name.
Yes, you do not dare.
He seems to be okay with it now. All of a sudden, at least according to recent.
I mean, he doesn't have much of a choice, man.
No, that and I think the safety is probably the third safety is going to be Dane Belton. So I don't know. Is there one that I'm overlooking? I mean, other than the defensive line and base personnel when they are 3 tight, like in a tight front, I think it's going to be Rakeem Nunez-Roches. And then maybe I think a training camp battle, if we want to call it this, is Darius Alexander against Jeremiah Ledbetter or Roy Robertson Harris. when it is base personnel. I don't know if they'll only use Darius to start the year in like nickel and sub packages, second and third, like maybe in those early downs. And I'm not saying Darius can't. I mean, he definitely can, but I just wonder how the Giants want to view this if they want to get more veteran beef out there. And then you have Chauncey Golston. He could also factor into that as well. So there's a lot of little battles here, but there's not like one I think that like stands out and grabs me. Am I missing one?
I see a couple that I'm like, so how about these? I mean, even at running back, man, I'm like, I love Cam Scatterbo. He was in all my mock drafts the entire time I was doing mocks since February. He just happened to be sitting there. Singletary he's kind of fallen off the edge of the cliff. So it's like, that could be a battle. I mean, I got some friends that are saying, Secretary can make a comeback and fight for that spot. I'm like, Scatterbo should have it easily, and Secretary should fall back in the third. But you said it earlier, man, the wide receivers. We got like, is it 15 of them?
Yeah.
That's the most that I've seen in, as far as I can remember. 15 wide receivers. I mean, Rondale, he's been out here for a little while now. It's been 2 or 3 years now, right? So it's like, Malik, we know what he is. He's the wide receiver one, unparalleled, unquestioned. But after that, you got guys like you mentioned earlier, Jalen Hyatt, who we're still waiting to see him flash and be what we saw him be early on. And then you get the guys we bring in like Zach Pascal might end up being special teams for sure, but we'll see how that turns out. But Lil Jordan Humphrey, I mean, besides his injuries, man, he was semi-productive. He has what you want height-wise. I mean, he's a go-getter at the point of attack. I mean, he know how to play football. There's no question that we had a lot of tough injury stuff, so he's going to be in the mix there as well. I mean, and Slayton, he's reliable. I mean, I won't call him over-reliable because it sounds kind of insulting, but, we can trust him, to be out there. So we got Wandale, and then you got Lil Jordan, and then maybe perhaps Juice Wells out here too. So I see a little competition out here. What do you think about the wide receiver position battle? Did that entice you at all?
Yeah, I mean, it does. The way I was looking at it was like with the running backs, like to me, it's Cam Scatterbo and Tyrone Tracy. And then you're right, Devin Singletary. I don't know, though, like how much of like an honest, I mean, there's going to be battle for initial snaps, but at the end of the day, like honest trajectory would tell you Cam Scatterbo is going to take that job from Devin Singletary. You know what I mean? But you're right. Like that initial, like is Cam Scatterbo going to show enough to usurp Devin Singletary? And then Tyrone Tracy Jr. is kind of like your 1A. I think that will happen. And then, just about the wide receivers, everything beyond the 11 personnel package, I would like to see. And then Hyatt's like a weird one. The 11 personnel package to me is Neighbors, Slayton, and Wandale, because I think they're going to have their roles. And then Hyatt's like that one where it's like, I still think he's developmental, but the Giants haven't really shown that they're very interested in him. There's been weird body language. I hope that they can figure it out. The kid won the Biletnikoff. I mean, he's talented. It's just, I think there's certain nuances about his wide receiving skills that haven't yet developed. And I don't know if the Giants feel like he's reliable enough to play a sufficient amount of snaps beyond the role of just stretching the defense vertically or horizontally. And then I am excited to be like, who's behind that? Because I don't know, right? Okay. Like, who's behind that? Is it going to be any of these UDFAs? Is it going to be Lil Jordan, Pascal? They're going to sign Gabe Davis. Or then there's Bryce Ford Wheaton, who's a good special teamer as well. So yeah, I'm definitely I'm excited to see what happens there. I don't know how many receiver snaps those guys are going to get if everyone's healthy, or even if the Giants suffer like one injury.
That's a lot.
Yeah, Gabe Davis would probably be that one guy, even though he was terrible last year for Jacksonville. He'd be that one guy where it's like, yeah, you can put him out there and he can play and he can receive somewhat for you, even though he's a little stiff and not that fast, and he's a vertical threat who used to win contested catch situations. But so I think that would be exciting too. And then there's we already talked about the guard position as well. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So if Gabe Davis came over, and this is my last question about this gentleman, if Gabe Davis came over, does that mean, decipher for me, does that mean that they think he's better than Wandale? Is that what that means? If he comes in? Because I don't know another way to explain why he'd be coming.
No, I mean, I don't. No, I wouldn't even view it like he's better than anybody. I just think he makes the collective room better. It gives them more options to do different things, and he might be more effective to be like the big blocker on those crack tosses, and he could still stretch. I wouldn't even compare him to Wan'Dale Robinson specifically. Like for me, like the Giants would view it like this guy is coming in here to be that like last wide receiver in the room who could be a blocker,
Okay,
and maybe add a little bit more upside as a receiver relative to the guys they have on the roster. Wan'Dale's going to have his role, and it's going to be that little slot, little jitterbug, just running around there, catching underneath and picking up like 2 yards before he gets like annihilated by a linebacker. But I'm a fan of Wan'Dale Robinson personally, and I think with a different system, maybe he'll be beneficial. But it's gonna be interesting to see Russell Wilson, who's 5'10", try to target Wan'Dale Robinson, who is like 5'7", over the middle of the field. That's something where it's like Russell Wilson's gonna need to throw like a rainbow trajectory to get that to him, because he had to throw it over all these mountains in front of him. You know what I'm saying? So that should be entertaining to watch.
Have any of the UDFAs really, like, any of them stand out to you? I mean, obviously to me, the big one was Wells, because that's one of Dart's targets. And I think they also brought in the sender from Ole Miss as a UDFA as well. But any of those guys, offensive side, defensive side, stand out to you?
Really just Antoine Wells. And it's because I've already watched the rapport between him. Between those two. I watched Makari Page as well, the Michigan safety they brought in. I didn't love his
Go Blue, baby.
But that was as a draftable prospect. So maybe if they bring him in, that third safety spot is another one of those, like, we think it's going to be Dane Belton, and I think it should be, especially in a defense that can rush the passer, because Belton's best trait was his ability to like undercut routes, anticipate, but he never really had an opportunity to do that too frequently in the NFL, because the Giants were never in these obvious passing situations consistently because they were getting their asses kicked. So now if you put Dane Belton, I think, in a defense with good sub package and a pass rush, like, we might see some more turnovers. So that should like enhance his ability in 3 safety sets. So maybe Anthony Johnson Jr. and Makari Page probably don't have, or they shouldn't have a big shot at taking that, but anything can happen, right? Anything can happen. And Makari Page, he's a UDFA who was very cheap. Dane Belton's looking to get paid after this season.
No, for sure. There's especially with, Pickens now in Dallas, we need all the help we can get in this secondary. I mean, I like that move if I'm Dallas for the win now. I don't understand it in the long term, especially giving up as valuable of an asset as a 3rd round pick is, because he's going to be asking for like 30 mil. He's going to see what DK got. He's going to see what Higgins got. They still need to pay Micah Parsons. But for right now, especially with how tough of a schedule this is, we can't afford to really be dropping any possible 50-50 games. How many wins do you see coming, this year? Like, I see like 7, maybe. I really love the draft. I love the free agency, but I don't think we've earned that benefit of a doubt for these 50-50 games that you might like see the schedule and think about. But what are you seeing here?
Well, first, one reason why I believe Dallas made that trade was because if they're not going to give him that $30 million contract, he's going to sign it somewhere else, and they're just going to pocket a comp pick in the next year. So they get something out of it like that. But I hope that doesn't happen, because more picks for Dallas like that would just be, abysmal for the New York Giants. But in terms of our schedule, bro, you're right, dude. It's tough. I'm looking forward to seeing how it's constructed, which should be happening soon, right?
Next week, I believe.
Next week, I think, right? So I'm looking to see, like, what are the Giants got travel to? What are their back-to-backs? Oh, sweet. They got Kansas City in the chart back, like whatever it is, right? Like, I'm looking forward to seeing all that. But you're right, man. Like, a 6-7 win season could feel good, which is like, I don't want that to be the case, man. Like, that's like, but like, is that what we need to suffer through to finally get to the other side of competency, to get out of like the mire we've been in for like the last decade, where there's just bad decision after bad decision? Like, do we have to just suffer through like a 6-7 win season to get to this next point? I don't know, but anything can happen, man. You never know. Injuries happen. Maybe the schedule falls a certain way where this team is not doing well, and then they end up doing well towards the end of that. Like, the Giants have been on the bad side of that roster variance for a little while. Yeah, right. So maybe if that like turns around a little bit, maybe the Giants could steal a game here or there. But you're right, man. They're gonna have to win in the division, and that's something they can't do. And I can't understand it, Jess. I can't understand why they can't just win against the Dallas Cowboys.
Used to be that at least we could bank on at least 1, if not 2 wins against Washington. Now we can't do that anymore. I mean, I think we honestly probably could have won both games last year, especially the first one, if we just had a healthy kicker.
It's crazy.
But, it was those kind of moments that really made me think about Daboll as a coach, and, like, how things have, I don't know if that was a Shane decision, a Daboll decision, with like not having, somebody that could just come in and make those kicks. But schematically, I've loved what I've seen from Daboll. I really want to see if he can develop his own guy here. But I don't know, kind of circling back to one of the topics we hit on earlier with Mara, just because he loves these guys or seemingly might really like these guys. If we have another 4-win season here, I just don't know what that means for them, despite how great we feel about these moves that they've made right now.
That's what I think would be like just pulling the plug out the wall, because it's like, I'm never going to be able to sell to the fan base. And it's best if we just start over. And I know Barron would not want to do that, but it's a reality. I mean, we know how quick like, we love them you one day, we hate you the next. We hate you one day, we love you the next. Like, that's how quick it is in this city, especially with this sport. So anything can happen from a long-term perspective. But I think tentatively they're like, we're going to try to get through this season, give us one more year. But who knows what's going to happen, especially if, Dable goes on like an 8 or 9 minute rant after a Chicago Bear game, just talking, just venting to the world like Joe Judge did. That could get you canned.
Man, that would do it. I don't want to see, like, I want my coaches angry, but I want them good angry. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, the yelling at the refs, that was a freaking hard. And just, they have the get back coach, come in, pull him off the field. I want that. I don't want angry after, at the press conference, kind of just fed up and done. Like,
oh yeah.
I want that fire in Dable that we had that first year. You remember, just seeing him after they beat Tennessee, him, Saquon, DJ, just hugging each other, and the guys going. I just want to feel that again, man. I just want to feel that again.
So do I. It was God. It was short-lived, unfortunately, though. But they ended up winning a playoff game, and we got that game too, which we were so deprived of up until that point, right? So that was cool. I mean, damn, dude, the Giants just have not won playoff games. It's crazy how little we've experienced that joy in our adult lives.
I'm gonna stay in the cloud, man, because y'all are bringing me down, and I don't want to be down there. So I want to stay in the cloud. And for me, we talked about it on previous shows. It feels as though the reason why I'm excited about the draft is because it felt like they respected their identity, or the one they should have had for how many years? We're talking almost 13, 14 years now. Yeah, 14 years now. I mean, year 14. And it's like, by doing this with the defense, I have a high expectation. Higher than 5 and 6 games, not 10 and 11, but I'm kind of somewhere in that. I think we can squeak out 7 or 8 wins defensively, and we've done that how many times? As a matter of fact, we've done that in recent Super Bowls where defense actually won the games for us. I don't see why. I feel like that can happen again, even in a tough division. So that's where I think a lot of the extra wins I was predicting a few weeks ago would come from. It's not offense. It's going to be defensively, putting us back, keeping us in games and stuff. But what's your expectation of the defense? I mean, are you as excited about the defense as pertains to it being our identity, where it should be for New York football? That smash mouth, hard nosed football, because we need that. I don't know all the other finesse stuff. That's not New York. New York is grind. I mean, that was my whole life growing up there. Grind, is passion, is toughness, is grit. I mean, and the defense is exemplifying that. I think management is starting to get that. Are you excited about that part of it at least?
I am excited about that. Now, I don't have I wouldn't say it's a concern, but I always I try to be like, okay, like how could this fail? Because I am very excited about it too, right? And it's
my God.
If the defensive line is not strong enough to hold up in the two read shells. And then the Giants, I think Shane Bowen's good enough and adaptive enough, hopefully, coordinator, where he could do some things to mitigate that problem or that risk. But then in doing so, he's probably not going to run the actual defense he wants. I think the Shane Bowen defense with the offense, or with the run defense held up, like, that's what we want, because he can throw so many different pitches at you with the personnel that he has. And he's very good with the simulated pressures, and he likes to prevent the explosive plays with the 4 high stuff, right? With the 2 high shells and all that. And with palms coverage and everything like that, quarters. So in doing that, it will lead to defensive backs who are playing on their feet, looking to just jump these in-breaking routes, and that could lead to more interceptions, because there's got to be some There's got to be some variance here, right? There's got to be something that changes with the Giants. The Giants had like 5 or 6 interceptions last year. It's so bad. You have to imagine that's going to pick up a little bit where quarterbacks are just going to get themselves into less desirable situations just off of, chance. And now you factor in, you have Abdul Carter and Darius Alexander and Dexter Lawrence coming at you. And all of those will also facilitate mistakes where Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland can come away with these interceptions, man. So like, I think it could certainly come together, but if it doesn't, I think because that they just can't fit the run from the too high.
All right, that makes sense. I want Jess to jump in here with one more question for you. I know we took a lot of your time, and we definitely appreciate it, brother. I got one thing I want to ask you here, because this is something where this is how I think. So I'm letting you get into my mind, which is not always a great place, but maybe you can help me out a little bit. All right, so looking at where we are right now, we got UDFAs that we brought in. I'm not sure if we're done with that or not, but we brought in a good handful. In your assessment, from what you can see, and just kind of ask the question a little bit about the free agents and stuff, what do you think we can do to up our win total based on what's available to us right now? And I don't mean some kind of dramatic trade, because that's probably not feasible for us to even do something like that. I know next year we don't even have any comp picks, so we're going to be in an interesting spot. But what can we do? We kind of fancy booking here. What can the Giants do now to up that win total and be more competitive, at least in our division? What else can we do?
Are we talking about personnel wise, or are we just talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know too much about the free agents and who the Giants will entertain, or who the Giants can afford, or who the Giants will bring in. I haven't done like a deep dive into that quite yet. I'm sure if they upgraded maybe their defensive line a little bit more, but I believe at this point the Giants probably feel like they did. They drafted a kid and signed 2 veterans. So I don't envision them, unless somebody like they really like becomes available. So now they just got to trim the fat on the roster first, get down to where they have to be before I think it would be mini camp would start, or whatever it is. And then just, tackle OTAs and go head into training camp, try to stay healthy, get these guys a good, hard training camp while being smart and trying to stay healthy, and just get this team and also Jackson Dart to the best of your ability up to snuff. I mean, you have 3 quarterbacks you really need to train here. Like Tommy DeVito might be like that Davis Webb type of coach out there, dude, because like there's a lot of new guys to this offense. Luckily, 2 of them are professional, and Winston and Russell Wilson. But I don't really have a pure personnel move other than the Gabe Davis stuff that we talked about a little bit earlier. But even then, I'm not like, oh, this is putting us over the edge. Like it's just like, oh, I think that might be a smart, like just a smart risk, or just like a smart attempt to try to upgrade your roster slightly on the back end of the wide receiver room for Mike Rowe.
Yeah. Makes sense, man.
I've got 2 questions. I like to end things.
2 questions.
We'll look at
that.
Yo, if you have another one, Mr. U, fire it at me, man. I was a little bit late here, and I want to apologize for that. So
no. Jess has 2 questions, and this is Jess' show, not mine. So great, Jess.
They're fun, lighthearted questions. We've been serious, talking personnel, getting a little into the X's and O's, just a little bit, but I like to have a little bit of fun here. So, in the spirit of like, what can the Giants do to improve here? If you could go and take 2 prime Giants players, no Eli's, no LTs, no taking any of those easy guys. Let's get a bit more into the weeds here. Who once one player for each side of the ball? Who would you add?
Great. I'm looking up great New York Giants right now. Just I don't want to forget anybody. So I want to make this clear. Who is off the table? Like who? Like is Lawrence? Because I want Harry Carson, right, or Carl Banks if I'm not allowed to have Lawrence Taylor. So I would go with
that's cool with me. It's just, everybody would say, oh, let's take Eli, best quarterback in Giants history, LT, best player.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't want none of the super obvious guys.
We're going to have fun with this, okay? So we're going to remove Eli, we're going to remove Lawrence Taylor, we're going to remove Michael Strahan, and we're going to remove anybody who played in like the 1920s, because what are we doing? So Harry Carson. I would go with Carl Banks, but I think Carl would be mad if I went with Carl over Harry Carson. So I'm going to go with Harry Carson.
I know he'd be mad about it. So
yeah, absolutely. Harry Carson's so I wish I was able to like watch all 22 of Harry Carson, Carl Banks, and Lawrence Taylor. I would love to see that. Right. And then I think I might go with somebody a little bit more recent. Maybe it's because I know him more, and they're like guys like Roosevelt Brown I never really got to watch. And I think it's Chris Snee. I think I might go with like prime Chris Snee for the offensive line. Is that too? Is that an offensive defense? It is. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I did.
I love the Snee pick. I was so funny story.
Don't say you're going to pick Chris Snee because you would not. Don't even say it.
I was going to say someone on the offensive line. But what I was going to say was I was
man.
The first Giants jersey I ever bought with my own money, was a Daniel Jones jersey right after his rookie year, and then everything immediately fell apart. So this year I know
why, right?
Yeah, because I cursed him. So I'm like, okay, which jersey can I get here? And I was genuinely terrified about if I buy like Dexter Lawrence or someone like that, I'm gonna end up cursing them or something. So I'm like, I proposed, I'm like, hey dad, like, what do you think? He's like, give some love to the trenches. Look at like O'Hara or Snee, see if you can find one of those guys, because you can't curse them if they're already retired. So I'm like, that is a great idea. I could not find one.
Jess, I love that story. It reminds me a little bit of a story that I have as well from when I was young. So it was like prior to high school, around high school. And my dad, he would buy me a red Giant. I was big into the red Giants jersey. This is a controversial take. I love the Giants red jerseys growing up, right?
I love those too.
Yeah. So my dad bought me a red Shockey jersey. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was nice, man. But then he ended up leaving the Giants. And around that same time, he then got me a Jabril Wilson jersey, and Jabril Wilson then left the Giants. And so then I started becoming an adult. So I bought myself a Plaxico Burress jersey in 2009, and he shot himself in the leg. So I was just like, no more red Giant jerseys for me. Yeah, I just couldn't do it. I was cursed then, bro.
My dad, the only jersey I currently have is an actual worn, authentic practice jersey from the 1980s.
Let's go.
That my dad actually plays every Sunday in a touch football league in the local area. And one of the guys, I guess, had some connections with the Giants, and they were like, hey, we're shipping all these out. We don't want to throw them away. And he's like, I'll take them or something like that. So he came over and offered them to all the other dads in this league and everything. And they're like, my dad's like, heck yeah, I'll take one. So he got and gave it to me. So that's what I got in my locker and my closet right now.
I love to hear that. Locker. Yeah,
I love that.
That blue and that red, like what is it? The alternates that we wear that look so good. Not the anniversary ones we wore this year. Those were terrible, but they were rough. Yeah, the throwback ones with some of that modern.
The blue with the red trim, the white and red trim. Yeah, those are my favorite. I love those, man.
Smooth. So funny enough, I kind of have a similar story to that too.
Okay.
Yeah. So so he's like my dad's second cousin, or maybe my dad's first cousin, makes me like my second cousin. He's in the coaching Hall of Fame in the state of New Jersey. His name's Tommy Falato. You can look him up. He won national or state championships and all that kind of shit, right? So he was, I think, scouting for the Giants in the 80s, and he like knew Bill Belichick and everybody. Like they all knew him because they were all just football guys in the same building. And Belichick, I think, had one of his red polos that he was wearing at the time, and for somehow, one way or another, my uncle ended up being gifted a Belichick polo, and then that uncle gave it to my dad, and my dad gave it to me. So I somewhere in one of these drawers have a practice worn polo from Bill Belichick.
That is so awesome.
I was like, holy shit.
That is awesome, man. That's awesome, man.
And I think this is the last question that I have.
Let's do it.
But again, kind of staying in the fun. Have you watched? It came out this morning, the Giants Life episode.
No, I have not seen that yet. But it's the one with where they show that Abdul Carter got selected, because I think I saw.
Yeah, and a little bit in the draft, and I just wanted your thought, because like we all know they're never doing another off-season Hard Knocks because of how bad that went. But terrible. Like these mini episodes. I love that stuff. I love seeing the behind the scenes stuff, and they've got an episode coming out tomorrow, 10 a.m. Free publicity here for the New York Giants official YouTube page. Shout out them.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. They got where they're going in a bit behind the scenes of the what it took to trade out for Dart and everything. But I just wanted your thoughts. Like, do you follow that? So, like, I watch every episode that they've been doing since the start. For me, at least, I remember them starting in 2022 with like the Kayvon and Evan Neal draft and some of the stuff. How like, do you like that stuff? Do you follow that stuff as religiously as I do? I guess
I haven't seen that one yet. I usually try to watch every piece of content that is released by the New York Giants. So eventually I do get to it. I have not watched that one yet though.
It's 13
You'll
minutes.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's not long, 13 minutes, but it will restore some of your confidence.
Okay.
Just by watching that. So
I'm sure it wasn't deliberately filmed with the intent of doing that, right?
it was, no, I'm pretty sure it was not, but
of course not.
I'm pretty sure it was not.
Positive behind the scene publicity or anything nowadays for any reason whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, why? Yeah. My guys, I'm gonna throw in to your question, Jess. I'm throwing in Justin Tuck and Sean O'Hara.
Love it. That's a great.
I just have to. Justin Tuck, man, that man, we can't allow him to be forgotten.
Yeah,
It feels like it's getting ready to happen. He's falling further and further back out of everybody's consciousness. That shouldn't happen, man. I mean, this guy was a star. I'm talking about sacks, rushes. I mean, he did everything. Well, probably one of the best DNs we ever had.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy that like you could argue that 3 of the best pass rushers, other than Lawrence Taylor, at the Giants have had, all were there at the same time, right? Like you can at least make that argument. I know there's people who would say like Andy Robustelli, some of the other guys, but like I think at least in the conversation, just off of rushing the passer, especially in a game where they passed the football so much more than they did back in the 70s, Uzi, Justin, and Michael Strahan would all be in that conversation. That's cool.
Absolutely.
We got 2 Super Bowls out of it too.
Without question.
Corey Webster.
Oh, Corey. Okay. I remember Corey.
For focusing, a bit on that CB room, why not?
Jess, this is so funny. I got a funny story about Corey Webster. All right. I swear I don't have any cool stories, it was my last year in the Marines, right? One of my buddies I served with prior to that had already gotten out and he was working strength and conditioning for Florida State. And somehow, and remember, Corey Webster went to LSU, somehow he ended up in a room with Corey Webster and they were chilling. So he FaceTimed me on the early FaceTime. I'm like, why the hell is he calling FaceTime me? I'm like, all right, well, let me see. And I looked at it and it's just Corey Webster sitting there with his ring. And then he zooms out like this. And I was like, yo, Corey Webster. And we talked for like 5 minutes and it was cool. And then this is back when I think one of my friends started my Twitter for me. I didn't even start my own Twitter. Like one of my best friends did because I'm not really a massive social media guy, but, he starts to Twitter for me, and I told Corey Webster, I'm like, oh, I'll follow you on Twitter or whatever, and then and then he follows me, and he followed me for so long when I had like 100 followers. It was like Corey, and then eventually it ended up going away like 10 years later, and now I actually use Twitter, and it's just funny how that happened. But yeah, Corey Webster.
Shout out Corey Webster.
Shout out, bro.
Yeah, man. Well, Justin and I follow you on Twitter, man, because we love your work, man, and we definitely want to stay with you because we love your insights and stuff. And we this is a new show for us. I mean, what we in just 6th or 7th, 8th episode? I mean,
something like that. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, but
I'm just happy to be talking about the Giants with
I know it.
Now, yeah.
I know. I had to have Xanax for you every time you come on the air because I mentioned the Eagles and or Barkley and you like pass out. So I had to give him smelling salts and stuff. But
I'm still mad. Mad.
Just it was just a reference. We're not going to talk about it. It was just a reference. We're not doing that today. But you know what I'm saying? But that's what we are. So we just having fun, man, talking about our hometown team, man, and just enjoying this, man. You're a big part of our history, man, and you probably our third guest, probably our most known guest, but our third guest, man, and we're just excited to be doing this and talking a team that we loved in the Giants, and you brought some insights and some great stories, man. Thank you. Thank you for doing this, man. And
Mr. U, thank you, and Jess, thank you as well. It was fun. We chopped it up. We talked about the New York Giants. Hopefully, they don't disappoint us too much this year. But it's the most optimistic I feel like the New York Giants fans have been in probably. Actually, I don't know because a lot of New York Giant fans were optimistic after 2022. But we feel good right now. We'll end up good.
We all were. If we're honest, we all were. If we're honest.
Yeah.
So we thought something big was going to happen.
Try and hold on to this for as long as we can.
No, guys, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, man.
Same here, brother. Thank you so much. If you guys are watching and listening, please follow Nick Falato on Twitter. Most significantly, the Big Blue Banter is going to be on YouTube as well. You can follow him and Dan Schneider there. I pronounced the name right? Dan Schneider?
No. Yeah, Schneider. You got it that second time, but the first time you hit him with the Schneider, that's something Dan. Oh,
no. I didn't know. I didn't even. I know his name. No, I know his name.
I know. It happens.
There's no D in there. I don't know. Okay. All right. And he writes for Big Blue View as well, man. So he got great content all out there, man. Please check him out. Check out his work. Follow his work. We're doing that. So you guys do as well. Jesse, any closing thoughts for our viewers and listeners, man?
I don't know. I think we hit on a lot of things today. You know, again,
we sure did.
Thank you, Nick, for coming on. Hope in the future we can have you on again at some point.
Absolutely, man. Hit me up. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, man. Well, we out of here, guys. Have a great day and go blue, baby.